into the discussion and see.
You could also alternate, like one group gets their meal on Tuesday and the other, you know what I mean? If we can't do 2 or 3 days a week, or sign up.
And Bill might be able to speak to that.
Right now, there's a program where from donations, someone can get a meal a week that is that's paid for without them having to pay based on need.
And back to what you're saying about the historical society again, that also solves a parking issue. If the Masonic building was something that would work, which we've talked about the need to secure.
I think that needs to be a discussion, like you said before, regardless of ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Is focus on the historical society.
Yeah.
And I mean, my opinion with the marina is, I don't know that I want to use ARPA funds for it, but I do think it's important and we should do it. But I just would rather see the marina pay back the community than to use these. I'd rather see these funds spread. Like the waterfront gets more inclusive use than the marina.
Where the marina's private.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Should we just table it for now and just pick it up since we have?
I think what Sue needs, she needs a solid, say 10 of these that she wants to put forward.
I need, it doesn't have to, I said 10, it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be, I guess that all I thought we were going to do was take the temperature of the community in terms of what their thoughts were. I mean, there's a strong consensus here on the council that senior meals and transportation and those kind of things are very important. And the question is that feeling shared by the community at large? And that's what a survey will tell you, is whether the things that you've thought about that fit into this category of money are things that the community will support overall.
But like Mark said, it needs to be very clear that this is not free money for any idea or any project.
And that's
people
why
are going to read it, but they're still going to think we should do this when we can't.
Yeah, the survey should make that very clear.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and that first page of that was this is the things that we can spend money on. I tried to stick entirely to the definitions that are provided, and because that's really what we have to look at. But I can certainly tweak it a bit so that it makes clear that
I think it's pretty clear. I think what you wrote is pretty clear.
The goal was for people to understand that these are the 4 categories that we have, and this is how things fit into them. But
You have another copy of that. I don't have it.
I think one thing that we've touched on, but hasn't been discussed a lot tonight, and I know there's some uncertainty around it with the county too, but is that first responder stipend piece. Like if I'm envisioning that survey showing up, and I haven't been part of this conversation, and I'm taking a look at it, and I want to know what the council's priorities are. To me, it seems like the first responder piece, where that is legitimately called out, is, if not on the first page, one of the big bullets in this program. That really needs to be something that I would like to get input on. And then to me, really, it boils down to everything here is something, like the mayor just said, is something that we discuss either as part of this or an ongoing conversation as a small part of this, and then it becomes something we fund through the budget for as long as it needs to be. But these type of funds are, to me, more things that we already know that need to happen, and we've kind of been talking around or kicking around for some time, like these, like perhaps some rec improvements, the wall improvements, the AV situation here, where this building is going to be here and it's going to be used for this purpose for some time. To me, that's just, it's got to be the first responders, anything identified that are one-time costs with infrastructure. And then I think things like the senior center meal funding, it'd be great to take the temperature on that, and then as well I'm leaning towards wanting to see something on the Historical Society too, because I think even if that isn't something that we just throw or dedicate money to as part of this project, will help us as we in the next budget cycle or even the one after that. I'll stop there. That just seems to me to be the.
So I guess the question is, do you want more numbers before we send out a survey? Or do you want to send out the survey to see which way people think we ought to go?
I say send out the
I
survey.
think we send it out now, and then at least that will guide, somewhat, and people will give us some answers.
And getting some numbers, is that what we're looking at too? The survey and money?
I mean, I think some of them we could get numbers for, because,
Bill
like
Foster.
AV is pretty clear. or-
AV, talk to Bill Foster, things like that.
Yeah, and then the waterfront, I mean, we already started to pursue that, so that would just keep moving, would be my guess.
I think those two things can grow at the same time, like we could be figuring
Pursuing.
out what costs and whatnot. Because we're not really necessarily weighing the survey on how much each thing's gonna be. We're just weighing on what's important to you.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Rich stood here the other day, last meeting, and he asked for $200,000. Well, we have now available to us $260,000. That kind of cut a hole in that. If that was the choice that we made, was to go to the Marine with that. That's why I asked him where his financial situation was at this point, and what he would do if this money wasn't there. I think those are things we need to know when people are requesting these things.
We can turn this list into 10 with some combination, because there are several that talk about senior-related things. The senior citizen services include transportation, and then transportation is separate. So if transportation was left under that, the project admin costs, nobody's going to vote for that. I don't know that we should put it on a survey. If it has to happen, it has to
Just
happen.
realize that we got to keep back some.
That's right,
Yeah.
because this, truthfully, this isn't that big a pot of money.
Right.
No.
That's, we don't have the $10 million the county does. We have $500,000, and that's,
You tried.
Yep. But you're not gonna.
So how long has this been in here?
I know, I was like,
Yeah.
where did that come
what, today,
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
from? Makes my seat more valuable now.
In the whole building?
Well, we already have them upstairs, we just didn't have them down here.
Okay. That's why you guys
Yes,
never complained
we
about
had
it.
to, we had, when they didn't put air conditioning in this building, and it became impossible to work in shortly thereafter, they put heat pumps in the lobby and in the main office. And the one in the main office, its internal parts on the inside of the building died a month ago,
Right.
on the hottest part of the year, and we had to have that, the insides replaced on that one, so that the office staff didn't all walk out at the same time. But this one was completed today. So now there's a way to keep this room at a much more comfortable temperature than we've been able to at prior meetings.
Wow, and it'll eliminate moisture down here too, which is a good thing. Yep.
So do you feel, Sue, you've got enough to put a survey together? And
Yeah, I do, and what I will do is put it together, and I'm going to send it out to you, and I'm just ask you all to send me back something that said, I read it and it looks okay, or I don't like how you've combined this,
Okay.
do something different.
And as far as numbers, I mean, we talked about acquiring numbers, can we get an AV
Well,
number?
the waterfront improvements depends on what you're talking about doing, so unless you...
Yeah, I would almost leave that one out. I was, because that.
I mean, the
There's not enough
marina,
money
we know
there
that
to-
the marina's 200,
I meant the
Right,
AV side of it,
yeah,
just what that
yeah,
costs.
yeah.
the marina's 206 or 60, it's just a 2 and a 6 in the numbers, and I know the 2 is the first number. And so we know that kind of thing. The AV upgrade is the equipment in that back room that is making this all go out to TV land or internet land, plus the microphone system and the cameras, which are, but we can certainly, I'll ask Jim Morrill for a cost estimate on an upgrade to AV to make us more conversant, and the ability to do hybrid meetings, which our remote policy requires us to be able to do. Right now, it's either we are here or we're not, because we don't have a way to do the other one. Okay, I will do that, and we'll get, for those things that have, Historical Society, the cost of switching buildings, or I think the price on the Masonic,
Still 200, I believe. But
yeah, well,
It's been there for a while.
anyway,
Do we have time to keep going with social media, or should we just come back to that and do the services to get Larry on that cemetery?
well, we stop one and then, I guess if you wanted to, I gave you several social media policies. Before I write one, I was looking for some sort of consensus on which one you liked the best out of the ones I gave you. And if it's not possible to do that, we can move it to the next, a meeting before the next council meeting. But they were from different size communities, and they were in different levels of complexity. But
Do
you
have
want
any-
to, if you want this to be homework, get back to me with which one you
Okay.
are happiest
I'm
with
fine with that.
format-wise. I'll have a draft for your next meeting based on whichever one the majority of you.
Okay with that.
That okay?
Yep. Why don't we do that, and then we'll just move on to services. So.
Okay, well, we need to
and
clink
then-
so he can start and stop. the
Motion
next.
to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Adjournment?